I've been a Turo host since 2017. I currently have 27 cars in my car sharing fleet, 30 if you include my personal cars, and I'm approaching 4,000 trips on my Turo profile. It's safe to say that over the years, I have learned a ton of lessons, and so in this video, I'm going to be talking about the valuable lessons that I've learned over the years and how these lessons have allowed for me to grow and scale my car sharing fleet more efficiently, effectively, and of course, more profitably. So let's get started. Now, before we dive in, I do want to let you guys know that just a week ago, we announced the second version of the car sharing masterclass. This is a completely updated and revamped version, and I am so incredibly proud of the final product of the course. This course teaches you every single thing you need to know about starting and scaling a car sharing fleet with the exact same business model that I've used in order to grow my fleet into a six-figure business. In the course, we teach you everything that you need to know from how to find and how to buy the right cars, how to navigate things like Turo customer support, damage claims, and communications with the guest, as well as how to ensure that your cars are well maintained and being fully utilized as much as possible. And of course, we talk about so many of the questions that I get asked on a daily basis, like how does insurance work? Should you or should you not get an LLC? And of course, what happens if your car is totaled? We cover this and more in the car sharing masterclass, and if you want to learn how to start your own car sharing fleet, this is the perfect course for you. When you sign up for the course, not only do you get access to hours worth of course content, but you'll also be invited to our private Discord group and our private monthly Zoom calls. Now, if you're interested in checking out the car sharing masterclass, you can check out the link down in the description below. Now, if you're watching this video and if you're a subscriber on my channel, chances are you know what car sharing is, and there's probably a high likelihood that you yourself are a car sharing host or you're interested in becoming a car sharing host. But for those of you who aren't involved in this type of business or have never heard of Turo or car sharing, let me very briefly explain. Car sharing is the business of loaning out your car to your peers for money. Think of it like the Airbnb for cars, where you list your car on a platform. Turo is one of those platforms. People get your car from you and they pay you for that vehicle. It is extremely similar to Airbnb, so if you understand how Airbnb works, chances are you understand how car sharing works. Over the years, I have probably owned over 40 vehicles that have been rented out on Turo, and many of those cars have been sold, totaled, and I still own many of them today. For example, like this 2007 Ford Focus that I've had since 2019, or this 2007 Toyota Yaris that's made over $25,000 over the years. It's safe to say that I have learned an absolute ton, and here are some of my biggest takeaways. Number one is stick to a business strategy, and what I mean by this is predefine what types of cars you want to buy, whether or not you want to offer delivery, and how you actually want to conduct your business, and then I advise you, once you've outlined all of those details, stick to it. One of the biggest dangers of car sharing, and truthfully any business at all, is chasing shiny objects. Always looking at the newest, better, bigger thing. It's kind of like the idea of the grass is always greener on the other side. I'm such a proponent of figuring out how you want to conduct business and what works right for you and is best for you and your goals, and truly sticking to that with laser focus. For example, my Turo business model is the low to mid-tier economy model. I rent out normal everyday cars. I also don't meet any of my guests in person, and I don't offer delivery. But over the years, especially as I've made more money on Turo, I've been extremely tempted to buy higher-end, nicer, more exciting vehicles. For example, an Audi R8, a BMW i8, or even a Lamborghini Gallardo are cars that have crossed my mind on multiple occasions. In fact, I probably think about buying a Lamborghini once every 3 or 4 months. But I repeatedly have to tell myself that that isn't my business model, that is not how I've decided to grow and scale my own car sharing fleet, and I really need to stick to what works. And while of course I do buy those one-off exception vehicles like my Maserati Ghibli or the Lexus that I just purchased a few weeks ago, I ultimately am not going to grow a fleet with these types of cars, and the low-end to mid-tier economy model is what I'm going to be sticking with. I feel like with social media and with all of these different Facebook groups that exist out there with car sharing, it's very easy to find a host that may be doing their business one way, you find that that might be new and exciting, or they may be making more money, so you want to copy them. Now, I'm not saying that you should never change your business model, pivot, or try new things, because that is, of course, something that's necessary if you want to have longevity in any business. But what I am saying is figure out what type of long-term game plan you want to have and really strategically follow that plan, and don't pivot without additional thought and strategy. I think it's very easy to see people on social media trying new and exciting things. and I think it's extremely easy to try to copy them because you have FOMO or fear of missing out. But by pivoting from one idea to the next, it's a really great way to limit your own progress. And so because of that, if you are a car sharing host, I really encourage you to figure out what strategy and business model you want to follow and really see that strategy through. Ultimately, pivoting from idea to idea, from vehicle to vehicle is a really great way to hold you back long term. And I do know from experience that sometimes sticking to a strategy, even if that strategy works, can be difficult, because it can sometimes be boring. Number 2 is having a partner. Now, I don't necessarily mean that you have to hire a partner or you have to have an equity split with somebody, but having somebody that you can rely on to help you with your car sharing fleet in instances of emergency, if something comes up, even just an extra set of hands to rely on, is something that will be invaluable to you and your fleet long term. Whenever I started my car sharing fleet, I managed my entire fleet on my own, about 99% of it. Now, I did have my then boyfriend, now husband, there to help me periodically, but at the time, he was a car salesman at a Lincoln dealership, and he worked insane hours. So he wasn't available as much as we both would have liked him to be. Because of this, I had to do my car sharing fleet in addition to this YouTube channel and my consulting job and freelancing all on my own, which was extremely difficult. The one saving grace, though, was the ability to rely on HP whenever I really needed him. For example, if I was going on a run and I wanted to unplug from my phone for a bit, I could send HP a message and say, hey, I'm going on a jog, I'm not bringing my phone, so can you pay attention to Turo messages? Or if I was in a meeting and I knew I wouldn't be able to look at my phone, I could let HP know and he could keep an eye on Turo. Or even in times where I was extremely sick and I wasn't able to clean or work on my own cars, I had HP there to help me, even if his availability was extremely limited. Another person that I utilized in cases of extreme emergencies was my dad, and he was kind of my plan C in case I couldn't check in a car, HP couldn't. I knew that I had this third option to rely on, but I very rarely utilized that third option. The point is, no matter how consistent or regimented you are with running a business or a side hustle, occasionally things are going to come up that are out of your control. And you want to have safeguards put into place to help protect your business in case those things do arise. And I know that for me personally, having people that I not only trusted, but ones that knew how the Turo app and the Turo business model worked, having these people that I could rely on in cases of emergencies, it was extremely helpful. Because the reality is, emergencies come up even if we don't want them to. If you are a car sharing host and you want to grow your fleet, I do encourage you to have a couple of people in your life that understand how Turo and car sharing works. These are people that can go to your vehicles, they can clean them for you and take some pictures if something does happen for you personally. And keep in mind, these types of instances don't necessarily have to be bad emergencies. It could even just be you going on vacation or unplugging from your phone for a few hours. The point is, having those safeguards is incredibly important, and it really does give you some peace of mind. And fortunately, this was a lesson that I learned early on, and it really helped me grow long term. Number 3 is power host status absolutely matters. And if you are a car sharing host that wants to stay on Turo long term, I would absolutely make the goal of reaching this status. You see, on Turo, there's something called Power Host status, and whenever you reach this status, you get a slew of benefits as a Turo host, including credits to your wheels and tires in case they're damaged, assistance fixing your windshield, and an elevated customer support system. And let me tell you, having that elevated customer support makes an extreme difference. Now, unfortunately, Turo recently changed the requirements for reaching Power Host status, so now it is quite a bit harder than it used to be in order to become a Power Host. But again, if you are somebody who's wanting to grow on Turo, I really encourage you to try to reach this status as soon as you can. The Power Host customer support system makes being a Power Host worth it in itself, because the level of customer service you get is so superior to their standard outsourced customer support line. In fact, whenever I call customer support, regardless of the problem that I'm needing to address, I can typically have that issue addressed in anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes, which is simply not the case whenever you're calling their standard customer support. Being a power host, as well as knowing how to navigate the customer support system, these are 2 things that will be invaluable to your Turo operations long term, and they will make your life significantly easier. Number 4 is being able to work on your cars, and in my mind, at least knowing about cars and having a surface level understanding of the different problems that can arise with your vehicles is an absolute must. Now, don't get me wrong, I do not think that you need to be a mechanic to be successful on Turo. I don't even think that you have to do 100% of your own maintenance, but I do think that you need to have the willingness and ability to learn about cars, and I also think that you need to understand vehicle reliability, repairs, and maintenance. My husband is extremely good with cars. I, on the other hand, am not, but I am learning. But having the ability to work on cars on a whim is an absolute game changer. For example, a few weeks ago, HP was out of town and our Hyundai Tucson was returned from a rental with a nail in the tire. It was going out the next morning, and I had to figure out what to do on my own because HP wasn't there to help me. Because of the fact that I do in fact have a pretty decent understanding of vehicles and vehicle repairs, I was able to patch the hole in this tire and send it out on its next rental without any issues. And I was able to complete this repair in less than an hour. Another example is just this past weekend, we had one of our cars have an alternator go out. It was returned in the morning with a bad alternator, HP replaced it in the afternoon, and the same vehicle was able to go out on its evening rental. No revenue lost and no bookings had to be canceled. These are the types of things that will help keep your Turo fleet highly utilized. And while I don't necessarily think that every car sharing host needs to work on their own cars, at least having the ability to diagnose your cars or know when an issue is popping up will be a huge lifesaver. For example, knowing the symptoms of a bad alternator, that way you can catch it before the alternator actually goes out. Or knowing how to find a hole in the tire, that way you can patch it yourself in a timely manner. Or even being able to learn the different noises that a vehicle makes, that way you can spot whenever something may be off. These are all things that I myself am learning a lot about. And I've gotten significantly better over the years at diagnosing my own vehicles, and this in turn helps us keep our cars listed and it saves us money long term. Again, I do not think that you need to be a professional mechanic or even work on your cars in order to be a successful Turo host, but I do think that you should have an understanding of vehicle maintenance and repairs. That way you can at least diagnose your own vehicles if an issue does arise. And last but not least, the little things do matter a lot. Little things from the presentation of a vehicle to making money. Sometimes the small things matter more than the big things. Okay, maybe not more than the big things, but certainly just as much. For example, windows. HP and I have found that when we clean the windows of our cars, even if the rest of the exterior of the vehicle is a bit dirty, the car has a better guest perception than if we were to clean the entire car but leave out the windows. Why is this? Well, it's probably because of the fact that fingerprints on windows are extremely noticeable, and if somebody sees fingerprints on their windows, it's going to be one of the first things that they notice about that car, and their mind is automatically going to tell them that the car has in fact not been cleaned, even if it actually has. When we wipe down windows prior to a guest picking up a car, we notice time and time again that the guest has better feedback for that vehicle. So this is one of those small things that we make sure to always do, because it really does help with our reviews. Another example is tolls or small gas charges. I know of a number of hosts who don't request reimbursement for gas charges that are less than $5 or $10. And while I do understand that requesting reimbursement for an $8 or $5 gas charge may come off as a bit petty, you are absolutely leaving money on the table. Every single month, I spend between $600 and $900 on gas. The majority of that is through reimbursements where guests didn't fill up the gas tanks of my vehicles. I, of course, get reimbursed for this, so it's not money that I'm actually spending, but of that $600 to $900, about 30% of that is with very minor gas charges, so $10 or less. If I didn't request reimbursement for these smaller gas charges, I would be leaving hundreds of dollars on the table. And an even more extreme example of this is toll charges. Toll charges typically range for anywhere between 10 cents to $2 per tolls. And given the fact that I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we have tolls everywhere, so it can be extremely expensive to drive on toll roads. And my car fleet every single month accumulates about $2,000 worth of toll charges. This is, of course, something that I request reimbursement for, but if I didn't, I would be losing thousands of dollars every single month. And this is money that the guest is really obligated to pay, so there's really no reason not to collect it. But because of the fact that it's just a few dollars here, a few cents there, a lot of hosts just simply let it slide. But in my opinion, that is a big mistake, especially as your fleet grows. My suggestion is, if you're a car sharing host who's wanting to grow your fleet or just simply have a successful, profitable business, pay attention to these small details as early as you possibly can. Because if you begin the habit of paying attention to the details early on, it becomes much easier to continue to pay attention to them as your fleet grows. Whereas if you grow your fleet to 20 cars and you never pay attention to tolls and then all of a sudden you start doing it, it becomes a much harder task. Implementing these habits early on is going to make your life so much easier. I sort of feel like my business model on Turo is sort of the textbook definition of a business model where dollars really add up over time. All of my cars are pretty cheap to rent, with my cheapest one being only $25 per day. I talk to so many people on a regular basis saying that they would never even think about renting out a car for only $25 per day because it's simply not worth their time. But you take 27 different cars that are priced anywhere between $25 a day and $60 per day, and that ends up making up a lot of money on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And so whenever you're growing any business, don't discount the value of a dollar simply because it's just $1, because multiple dollars every single day add up to be quite a bit over a long period of time. But there you guys have it. These are kind of the biggest lessons that I've learned over the years, and I feel as though they have really set the tone for not only my business model with car sharing, but also my success with this business model as well. Like always, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.